Draymond, what did you think the biggest problem was tonight?
Well, amongst many things, we didn't defend. It's kind of been a theme. We didn't play with high energy, which has off and on been a thing. And when you don't do those two, you're playing against a set defense every play, and it's hard to execute. So I think there were a multitude of things.
Why do you think the lack of energy has been a thing off and on?
I don't know. I think our defense hasn't been great, and when you have as many letdowns, body language drops, effort drops. So I think the two are connected in some way, shape, or form.
I guess with regards to the defense and the issues you're having, what are you seeing with regards to the breakdowns?
We're not taking one-on-one matchups personal. We have not been a great help side team. We're not on the string. Defense must move on the string. We're not doing none of that.
What's the first step to doing that?
Number one is taking a challenge, personal challenge. You gotta take the personal challenge to guard your man. Then if you get beat, there's help. But I think right now we're just relying on the help to beat her. But when you don't give effort, then help can't get there. So it starts individually. Everybody must take the challenge individually of guarding their man, and then you build out from there.
Draymond, as the leader of the defense, have you sent that message to the rest of the team?
I felt. If our defense looked as shitty as it does, I failed. So you can send as many messages as you want to until we do it. I'm failing at it.
I know there's been a conscious effort to limit your minutes at center so far this year. Just how do you feel that's been going up to this point?
I don't give a shit. I play what position I'm at in. It is what it is. But our defense sucks. So, and we're 5-5. They go hand in hand.
Draymond, obviously lots of guys had an off night tonight, but specific to Moses and BP and JK, they were really struggling shooting from the floor, and they had their issues, obviously, defensively. When you have young guys that go through a bad game or a string of bad games, what do you think the key is to get them out of a little small funk like that?
You just have to play harder. The only way out of a funk is to play with more aggression, play with more effort, give more effort. You just got to play harder, and the only way to work your way through that and out of that is to give more effort. And they have to do that. This is the first time JK has played this amount of minutes. Our schedule it's been complete shit. And so you're playing the amount of minutes you're playing, you're being relied on night in and night out, and yet you've played more games than the amount of days that you've ever played. So it's a whirlwind. I'm sure his head's spinning. But he A, this is what he wanted, and B, he's cut out for it. And we know he's cut out for it. So he'll be better. Moses has been good. He had a rough night tonight. And BP will be better. But it's going to require them to play with more energy and effort. When you're a young guy, you have a responsibility to bring energy. If they do that, everything else will fall into place. And we know they're more than capable of doing that. So, just got to fight through it. And they will.
Given where you're at 5-5, and the upcoming road trip too, the schedule doesn't get easier. Steve singled out Sunday against Indiana as kind of like a must-win game. Do you view it that way too?
I don't view Game 11 as a must-win, but I get what I understand what he's getting at. At some point we have to start building an identity. You always must protect home court, so there's that. And you're going out on the road, for 10 days. So, we always talk about the getaway game. This is it. It's a team that just beat us. They kind of took a game that we should have won. So I understand what he's getting at for sure. And I'll approach it that way, and I'll make sure we approach it that way. But, we just got to be better.
What kind of identity does this team need to build?
I think we need to be a hard-playing team. We need to be great on the defensive end, and we need to be hard-playing. If those two things happen, everything else falls into place. But we must be a high-effort, high-energy team, and we must be a great defensive team. If we can't reach those milestones, we don't stand a chance.
Steve, what did you think the biggest issue was tonight?
Just a lack of purpose and energy, really right from the start. Competitive fire, connection, a competitive edge. We didn't have it.
What do you think caused that lack of purpose and lack of energy?
I don't know.
Tough nights for Jonathan, Moses, and Brandon. Just what did you see from them?
The game didn't go their way, but there has to be, some fire in the belly to get out of a tough night. It's tough as a young player when things aren't going your way and game's not going your way. It's easy to, kind of get down, and you can't do that in this league. You have to fight and compete every second, and it didn't feel like we did that tonight.
Steve, to your point, with younger guys specifically, when they're struggling like those three were tonight, is it reps in these kind of road games environments, or what do you do to get them out of that?
There's always another game in the NBA. We have a huge game Sunday. Go home for one game, out on the road for a really tough trip. We got to go get Sunday. So you turn the page quickly, and we got a lot of guys who can play and can compete, but we need all 12, all 13, however many guys get in the game. We need a full level of competitive fight and execution, and I didn't think we got much of either tonight.
Could you feel mental lapses from JK and BP, and what were the conversations like with them?
I talked to both guys during the game, just trying to help them get going, and we needed to do some things offensively to try to generate some pace and some flow, because the first 8 minutes it was just the ball just stuck and no movement, no pace.
When you notice that your team doesn't have the competitive fire that they need, how does that change what you're trying to do as a coach?
Well, you try to do some things schematically. You pick up full. Maybe trap. Maybe you go to zone. You change your lineups. I can see when it's happening, what's happening. Pretty tough when it happens against one of the best teams in the league with the best player in the world, and they make 16 threes. You're just swimming upstream the whole time. So it never felt like we had any traction in the game other than that first few minutes of the second quarter. And, 1-point game, and we immediately give up a 19-2 run with Jokic on the bench. That was the game right there. And so we've got a lot to work on, a lot to consider. But we move forward, and I like this team a lot. I like our talent. I like our depth. I think we obviously need to get Steph back, but I think the biggest thing going forward will just be trying to develop, regular rotation patterns and finding combinations that work.
How close do you think you are to finding regular rotation patterns?
I'm not there yet. Obviously, we've got to get Steph back, but if we get him back and we're fully healthy, then we've got some thoughts as to things we can do to, balance out the rotations and be a better, more efficient team.
Do Do you know what's next on Al? Is he going to need?
I don't. Yeah, the foot started bothering him today, and so he shot around with us this morning, tested it out, and just wasn't right. So obviously we kept him out.
If he misses time, I presume that would be a little more Draymond at center.
Yeah, it would have to be, and then obviously Trace. I think Trace has played really well for us here in the early going, and QP as well. So those are our options. Yeah.
3 Warriors players are now on the hot seat after Will Richards' breakout performance. Some players on the Golden State Warriors may be starting to feel the heat. The team seems to have uncovered a hidden gem in rookie guard Will Richard, who exploded for 30 points in Wednesday night's narrow 121-116 loss to the Sacramento Kings. Despite the defeat, Richards' performance turned heads across the league, and perhaps shifted the internal dynamics of Steve Kerr's rotation. The 22-year-old sharpshooter was nearly flawless, shooting 10-for-15 from the field and 5 of 8 from beyond the arc, while also adding 3 assists. But what truly stood out wasn't his stat line, it was his attitude. After the game, Richard downplayed his big night, saying the individual numbers didn't matter because the Warriors didn't win. That kind of humility and team-first mentality is rare in a young player. And it's exactly why his emergence is starting to create ripple effects inside Golden State's locker room. Several veterans now find themselves facing real pressure to step up, including 3 in particular whose roles could soon be in jeopardy. 1. Brandon Podziemski. It's been an up-and-down start to the season for Brandon Podziemski. The third-year guard has shown flashes of promise but continues to struggle with consistency, stringing together strong performances before slipping into stretches of turnovers and defensive lapses. He remains an important piece of Kerr's rotation and will likely continue to get opportunities, but Richards' emergence could make things complicated. If the rookie keeps producing at this level, it's hard to imagine the Warriors not carving out more minutes for him, even if that means cutting into Podziemski's playing time. 2. Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II has long been a reliable defender and spark plug for Golden State, but this season his impact has dipped noticeably. His trademark energy on defense is still there, yet the offensive limitations have become harder to overlook, especially with a new scoring threat like Richard waiting on the bench. Payton's minutes have already started to shrink, and if Richard continues to impress on both ends, Kerr may have little choice but to lean more on the rookie's versatility. Payton's defensive instincts keep him valuable, but he'll need to rediscover his rhythm soon to avoid slipping further down the depth chart. 3. Buddy Hield. Warriors fans know how electric Buddy Hield can be when his shot is falling, but they've also seen how quiet he can become when it's not. When Hield's three-point shooting goes cold, his overall contribution tends to fade, leaving the team searching for production elsewhere. Steve Kerr has shown he's not afraid to make bold lineup calls, and Wednesday's game was proof. He gave Richard extended minutes down the stretch, a sign that performance, not reputation, is what determines court time. If that continues, Hield could find himself watching more from the bench, especially on nights when his shot isn't landing. A shift in the rotation. It's still early in the season, and one breakout game doesn't guarantee long-term change. But Richard's composure, shooting confidence, and defensive effort have made an undeniable impression on the coaching staff. The Warriors, who have been searching for a young two-way guard capable of thriving alongside their veteran core, might just have found one. And if Richard can sustain even a portion of his Sacramento performance, he could force Kerr to make some tough decisions in the weeks ahead. For now, Richard isn't talking about minutes or roles. He's focused on earning everything he gets, one game at a time. "I just want to help this team win," he said quietly after his breakout night. That's all that matters. But make no mistake, that kind of mindset, paired with real production, changes things fast. And for a few Warriors veterans, it might already be doing just that. In the hours following Will Richards' breakout, the buzz around the Warriors' locker room was hard to ignore. Veterans were impressed, coaches were intrigued, and even opposing players took notice. Though Golden State fell short on the scoreboard, the night felt like a turning point, the moment a rookie officially earned the respect of one of the league's most demanding locker rooms. After the game, Steve Kerr didn't try to hide his admiration. "Will played with poise and purpose," Kerr said. "You can tell when a young player understands the rhythm of the game, when he's not just reacting, but actually dictating the pace. He competed on both ends, and that's what we ask for." Behind the scenes, team insiders say Kerr and his staff have been quietly impressed by Richard's maturity since training camp. He's known for staying late after practices, often working on his footwork and defensive reads with assistant coach Chris DeMarco. That discipline, combined with his natural scoring ability, has convinced the coaching staff that his emergence wasn't just a one-game fluke. Stephen Curry, who has seen plenty of rookies come and go, offered a measured but encouraging take. "He's got that calm confidence," Curry said. "You can tell he's not out there trying to prove a point. He's trying to play the right way. That's rare for a young guy. We all see the work he puts in, and we're happy for him." Richards' arrival, however, also introduces an unavoidable question. How does this change the Warriors' depth chart moving forward? With a veteran-heavy roster and minutes already scarce, every rotation adjustment carries weight. Kerr has long emphasized meritocracy. If you perform, you play, and Richards' effort against Sacramento underscored that philosophy. Privately, several players have acknowledged that competition within the roster has intensified. According to team sources, practices over the past week have been noticeably sharper, with veterans responding to the increased internal pressure. "That's what you want," Draymond Green said. "Iron sharpens iron. When a young guy steps up like that, it forces everyone else to lock in." The ripple effect extends beyond minutes. Richards' emergence could influence the team's approach to upcoming rotations and even potential trade discussions later in the season. If he continues to perform, the Warriors may feel less urgency to rely on streaky perimeter scorers or short-term veterans. Instead, they could invest more development time in their younger core, something the organization has struggled to balance in recent years. NBA analysts have also begun to take notice. On TNT's postgame show, former player Jamal Crawford called Richards' debut the kind of performance that changes how coaches see you. ESPN's Zach Lowe echoed that sentiment, noting that Richard brings an energy and scoring punch the Warriors have missed from their second unit. Even with all the outside noise, Richard himself remains unfazed. When asked about his sudden rise in media attention, he brushed it off with the same humility that impressed teammates earlier in the week. "It's one game," he said. "I've got a lot to learn. The veterans here have set a standard. I'm just trying to live up to that." Still, that one game may prove to be more than just a statistical highlight. It could mark the start of a subtle but meaningful shift in Golden State's identity, from a team leaning on aging stars to one willing to trust its next generation. For Kerr and the Warriors, that's a promising development in a season defined by uncertainty. And for a few veterans whose roles suddenly look less secure, it's a reminder that in Golden State's system, every possession and every performance matters. The Pelicans are quickly learning why the Warriors had no problem letting Jordan Poole go. New team, same struggles. Just a few weeks into the season, Jordan Poole's stint with the New Orleans Pelicans is already raising familiar questions. The same ones that led both the Golden State Warriors and Washington Wizards to move on from the 2022 NBA champion without hesitation. After posting the third worst plus-minus in the league last year, Poole now holds the second worst mark in the NBA to start the season, despite joining what was supposed to be a far more competitive team. When the Pelicans traded away their 2026 first-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks on draft night, it was a clear signal. They were done rebuilding and ready to compete in the Western Conference. The hope was that Poole's offensive talent would bring an extra scoring punch alongside Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Instead, he's become an early concern. Through his first 7 games in New Orleans, Poole has averaged 17.3 points, 1.7 rebounds, and 3.4 assists, shooting just 35.4% from the field and 33.9% from three. Those numbers don't just underwhelm, they highlight the same inefficiency and inconsistency that frustrated his past 2 franchises. Last season in Washington, Poole's raw stats looked solid on paper, a career-best 20.5 points per game, with 3 rebounds and 4.5 assists. But his play style often stalled the team's offense, and his defensive lapses became impossible to ignore. The Wizards, who were rebuilding anyway, saw little reason to keep him as a long-term piece. The Warriors had reached that conclusion much earlier. After offering Poole a 4-year, $128 million contract following their 2022 championship, Golden State quickly realized he wasn't suited to lead their backcourt of the future. His erratic shot selection, defensive shortcomings, and tendency to disengage when not scoring became too costly for a team built on structure and discipline. Now, it seems Willie Green and the Pelicans are coming to the same realization. It took just 3 games for the coaching staff to remove Poole from the starting lineup in favor of rookie guard Jeremiah Fears, the 7th overall pick in this year's draft. Since his lone bright spot, a 30-point outing against the Clippers, where he hit 7 of his 13 threes in a narrow 126-124 loss, Poole's production has fallen off sharply. In his next 2 appearances, he combined for just 22 points on 5-4-25 shooting and 3-4-15 from deep, posting a -27 across 51 minutes. He then sat out Wednesday night's game against his former teammate Klay Thompson and the Dallas Mavericks, a matchup the Pelicans managed to win 101-99 on the road, without Poole and even without Zion Williamson. That victory only added to the uncomfortable question looming over the franchise: what exactly should the Pelicans do with Jordan Poole now? At just 26 years old, Poole still has undeniable talent. His ability to catch fire, to completely take over a game, is what made him such a valuable piece during Golden State's title run. But that version of Poole feels distant now, buried under poor shot selection and uneven effort. The Pelicans are in a delicate position. They're developing a young core that includes fears and still awaiting the full return of DeJounte Murray, another ball-dominant guard. With Poole owed $34 million next season, the front office must soon decide whether to keep trying to integrate him, or explore trade possibilities before his value declines further. For now, New Orleans is giving every indication that it's moving toward a new identity, one built on defense, discipline, and shared responsibility. And while Poole still insists he can adapt to that model, his play hasn't backed up the claim. As one Western Conference scout put it bluntly this week, Poole can play. That's never been the issue. The question is whether he can fit anywhere. For the Pelicans, that answer may come sooner than they expected. The Pelicans' surprising early season success without Jordan Poole has only deepened the conversation around his future. Inside the organization, sources have described a growing sense of urgency to clarify Poole's role before the situation becomes a distraction, both for him and for the team's development. According to people close to the locker room, head coach Willie Green has emphasized accountability and defensive effort as non-negotiables. Those principles have defined the Pelicans' renewed identity this year, especially during a recent stretch in which they've beaten playoff-caliber opponents despite missing key players. Poole's inconsistency, on both ends of the floor, stands in stark contrast to that ethos. Everyone has to buy into the same message, a veteran Pelicans player told the Times-Picayune anonymously. This group is young, but we've got guys who want to defend, move the ball, and play for each other. When that doesn't happen, it stands out immediately. Behind the scenes, the coaching staff has reportedly had multiple conversations with Poole about adjusting his shot selection and decision-making. While Green and his assistants have praised Poole's work ethic and professionalism, they remain concerned about his focus during defensive possessions and his tendency to drift out of rhythm offensively when his shots aren't falling. League executives have begun monitoring the situation closely. Poole's contract, $34 million next season, makes him a challenging trade piece, but not an impossible one. Several teams with scoring needs, such as the Orlando Magic, Utah Jazz, and Brooklyn Nets, have been mentioned quietly as potential landing spots should the Pelicans decide to move on. However, any trade would likely require New Orleans to attach additional assets or take back another high-salary player. For now, Green has downplayed the speculation, insisting that Poole's role could evolve as the season progresses. "Jordan's a talented player," Green said following Thursday's practice. "We know what he can do when he's engaged and confident. Our job is to help him find consistency and fit within what we're building." Still, it's hard to ignore how seamlessly the Pelicans have played without him. Rookie Jeremiah Fears has earned praise for his poise and court vision, particularly in late-game situations. The 19-year-old guard has shown an ability to orchestrate the offense without forcing plays, something the team had struggled with when Poole was running the show. Meanwhile, forward Brandon Ingram has quietly assumed a larger playmaking role, averaging career highs in assists and efficiency. The chemistry between Ingram and Fears has already drawn comparisons to the early days of the C.J. McCollum, Damian Lillard pairing in Portland, a partnership built on trust and complementary styles rather than isolation-heavy offense. As one Western Conference scout observed this week, the Pelicans are finally starting to look like a team that knows who it is. And that's what makes Poole's situation tricky. He's the one piece that doesn't seem to fit the puzzle right now. The front office, led by Executive Vice President David Griffin, faces a difficult decision in the coming months. If Poole accepts a reduced role and embraces the team's defensive-minded approach, he could still carve out a valuable niche as a secondary scorer off the bench. But if the current trend continues, the Pelicans may need to explore alternatives, not only to protect team chemistry but also to preserve flexibility heading into next offseason. What began as an ambitious experiment, giving Poole a chance to revive his career in a new environment, is quickly turning into a defining test for both player and franchise. For Jordan Poole, the next few weeks could determine whether he remains a potential difference-maker in the NBA, or becomes another cautionary tale about talent that never found the right home.